Welcome to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and we are fortunate today to have not one guest, but two. You may not have heard of these guests, however, the work they do is critical in our community. Many of us never interact with the Allen County Coroner's Office, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk about the work they do. I'm pleased to have with us today our elected coroner, Dr. John Brandenberger, and the department's chief deputy, Chris Meals. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Ron.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
So with a new guest, I always start by having them tell us their story. This is a little bit about you and how you ended up doing what you're doing. So which one of you would like to go first?
Go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, I'll start. In residency in Fort Wayne Family Practice Program.
So medical doctor.
The last year of the residency, we were able to choose a month and follow around whomever we wanted as far as specialty. I chose Dr. Albrand, who was then coroner of Allen County. And anybody knows Dr. Albrand or knew him, his enthusiasm, and he was a cowboy type, and it was really contagious, and enjoyed spending the time with him. During medical school, while I was studying almost all the time, Betty was teaching full-time, getting her master's degree, and working part-time at L.S. Hares in the bridal department.
And Betty's your wife.
Betty's my wife of 52 years.
So
Yeah,
you're
thank
newlywed
you.
still, right?
Yeah, right. And so during those years, we would always take an hour out Sunday evenings and watch Quincy, Medical Examiner. And that just whetted my appetite. I started family practice in '81, and 11 years later was invited to come to the coroner's office, and I began my training then. Went to St. Louis University School of Medicine and learned death investigation, and then went back for an advanced certificate. And through the 90s, I spent time with Dr. Bates and Dr. O'Shaughnessy. And in 2000, Dr. O'Shaughnessy was elected to a 4-year term, had terminal illness at that time, and died 15 days into office. I was his chief deputy at the time, and he talked Steve Shine and the caucus into appointing me. So I fulfilled his 4-year term, shy 15 days, and then was elected to 2 more terms. And I love what I do in terms of death investigation. And presently, I'm in my 7th 4-year term as coroner.
Okay. Chris, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Ron. I'm second-generation police officer, so my dad was a deputy over in Mercer County, Ohio. My uncle was a police officer in Alma, first cousin in Alma. So I just was inbred into the police world, and I really had an interest in it. So by '84, I was a deputy over there as a volunteer, became a police officer. I always had an interest in forensic sciences or crime scene and photography and fingerprinting, but there really wasn't a lot there in Mercer County for that. My wife, Tracy, she had a job at the old Lutheran down in Fairfield and was tired of driving that hour and 20 minutes. In December of 1990, they had their second lateral class. So I lateraled to Fort Wayne Police Department, where I worked 27 years here. And out of that 27, 21 of it was in crime scene. So I started working death investigations. And in 2001, because of a close relationship with the coroner's office, I was invited over to be a volunteer. So I started my experiences with the coroner's office then. In November of 21, I still was a full-time police officer in crime scene management. And then in 2016, I was invited to become a deputy investigator. So I retired from the city police department one day, July 17th, and July 18th, I started with the Allen County Coroner's Office as an investigator. And then 2 years ago, when Michael Burris retired from the chief's position, then I was moved into the chief's position in the office.
So both of you have deep experience in death investigation, one from the clinical aspect of the cause of death, and you, Chris, more of the forensic, the police piece of
investigative
kind of some of those pieces.
side.
So,
And one thing, Ron, I think it's important to point out is that anybody who comes into the office has experience as a volunteer and moving up. anybody who is coroner has been groomed, so to speak, over years to do the job. In the last election, I was opposed by a gentleman who, at a forum, we were asked, why do you want to run for this position? And I have my answer with lots of good reasons. And his response was, quote, I've always wanted to get into politics. The coroner's office is not a political office to me, although it is elected. It's not political in the sense that people think of as political. It's one that requires knowledge and experience and ability to work with people, not only in the office, but law enforcement, prosecutors, others. And so the pipeline for development of people coming into the office is very important.
And that's something we will talk about in a little bit. We'll dig into a little. This is a constitutional office. And so we will talk about, you are, I think, the only office that can actually arrest the sheriff. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
I have a couple funny stories about that.
And so, not about our sheriff, though. So one of the pieces, when you go on to the website for the coroner's office, there are 5 bullet points, and that's certainly not the only things you all do, but it is the critical pieces. And I want to spend some time on each of these 5 things, and so the public knows that. So obviously the first one is investigate death to determine cause and manner of death. So walk us through a little bit about what's involved in that, when your office gets involved, because you're not involved obviously in every death, but when would your office become involved in that, and what do you do?
Our office becomes involved when it's an unexpected death or a suspicious death, or there's been recent fall of an elderly who has had a large bone fracture in the past year. That may come back to being an accident, although she may be 101 with dementia. Our office becomes involved, and that's an interesting sideline. And so constitutionally, our duties are, number 1, to identify the individual, number 2, determine the cause of death, and determine the manner of death. And identification of an individual, laws were changed after the Taylor van crash incident on I-69.
Oh, that's right, several years ago.
Yes,
right.
And quite a tragic and interesting story. There are 5 ways in Indiana law that we can identify, and that is by a family member viewing the person and identifying them. Number 2, commonly used, are fingerprints. Number 3 are dental comparisons. And of course, if we have a decedent, we have to have an idea of who it is, go back to their dentist, and then compare dental x-rays. The 3rd way is DNA, as people know about. And the 4th way that people may not know about is unique serial numbers on implanted medical devices. And so I have 4 different serial numbers in me, 2 hips and 2 knees, that I could be identified with any of those, if not identified another way. And we can talk about the manner of death if we're close to a break now, or...
Well, who makes the call as to when your office gets involved? So I have a loved one who dies. Do I just call up the coroner's office and say, I want you to investigate it? I mean, it's not quite that simple. I mean, what's involved in that?
Yes, Chris, would you take that?
Sure. If you're at home and you have a decedent, a family member at home that's deceased, you should call the 911 and have medics come and do the pronouncing. You may also have hospice maybe in home, and the hospice nurse will pronounce. But we constantly have someone, Rebecca Mays, who goes out to all the nursing homes and hospitals and constantly educates on when to call the coroner. So if it's a natural death and there's not a fall involved, it's purely a natural death, we don't need to be called. But we've educated all these facilities and people and nurses and medics and fire and police to call us if it's not natural. And then that's when we get a call. We even get called on some naturals because there's not a doctor to sign. If you're traveling through Allen County and you're from Mississippi and you get in a fatal crash, there's no doctor here in Indiana to sign your death certificate. So we will still get those too. But let's say you're a natural death, you come to a hotel, you don't wake up in the morning, then we'll get called on that because it's no doctor is available to sign that death certificate. So that's how we get called. And the medics know this, the fire know that, the police know that.
So we'll take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about why in a fall situation would your office be involved. You're listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and my guest today is Allen County Coroner John Brandenberger and Chief Deputy Chris Meals. Chris, before the break, we were talking about the different kinds of death investigations you do, and one of the things you talked about were falls. Why, when someone falls and then dies, would that be something your office would look into?
Well, the manner is important in that. Probably going to be an accidental death. So we need to know, and the law used to be 1 year and 1 day, but that law doesn't exist anymore, but that is a good standard practice for the industry. So we ask that everybody call us if they had a fall, a documented fall in the last year, so we can determine if that was part of the cause of death. You may be dying of cancer, and you may be on hospice, but you get out of bed and fall and break your hip. We believe then that's an accidental death because that's probably sped up your process of dying. And so then that becomes an accidental death with a major fracture where you can't get up and move anymore. That gets you bedridden. That causes a quicker death. Maybe you fall and hit your head and you're on Coumadin and you got a head bleed. Then those head bleeds lead to your death and earlier demise of you. So we have to look at all falls to see if any of these injuries that you sustained in that fall helps speed up your death to happen. And then that becomes an accidental death, even though you may have terminal cancer.
Okay. John, earlier before the break, you were talking about Quincy. And so for those of us that remember that, a TV show in the 80s, Jack Klugman, right, played the coroner of Los Angeles, I think. And every week, he solved a different, crime there. How is real life different from Quincy or similar to that?
Quincy was pretty much a one-man show. And then CSI came along and showed that it's teamwork. And I would say today it's teamwork on steroids. Our office, working with other law enforcement, crime scene people, homicide detectives, and so it is totally teamwork, not only within our office, working with each other, but each of us then working with ancillary services. I had mentioned responsibility of the coroner is identification. Then there's cause of death, and that comes through the autopsies with our qualified and excellent forensic pathologists who help determine the cause of the death. The tricky one is the manner of death. And there are 5 manners of death. One is natural. As a family doctor, people would say, I want to treat my high blood pressure naturally. And I would come back and say, most deaths are natural, so I'd stay away from that. But the other manners of death are accident, homicide, suicide, and undetermined. And an example of a difficult manner of death is someone who drowns. I'm always interested in that because when I was 13, my father drowned, leaving myself and 4 sisters and mom. And in drownings, it can be tricky if other people are around. Did the person have a heart attack and drowned? Natural manner of death. Was it an accidental manner of death? May have it been an unusual suicide that we don't see a lot but can happen? Or could it be that someone held him under and caused him to drown? And then that would be homicide. So a drowning is not automatically accidental. It may be natural or homicide or suicide, or putting everything together, we may say that the manner of death is undetermined, could not be determined.
And so why do those classifications make a difference? Why is that important?
I think it's important, number one, to be able to tell the truth of what happened. And even in difficult situations where there are suicides, that the truth needs to be spoken to family, although we don't publicize that. It is in the verdict that is filed, that is public. In homicide, obviously criminal intent, or the prosecutors would become involved. And in natural, if it's a heart attack, for example, my father was 42 when he drowned. I always wonder, might have he had a heart attack? And if he did, that would impact my family medical history.
It's hereditary.
Yeah, so it's important to determine the manner to be able to tell the truth of what happened.
Well, do you also find, John, that sometimes for families for closure, they want to know what happened?
Yes,
Right.
yes, and as hard as that may be at times, there are just lots of interesting stories we could tell about that.
So one of the other things that your office does, it says offers law enforcement training. What type of training does your office do for law enforcement?
I'll first tell you what I do personally, and that is I've been on the Indiana State Coroners Association for the past 8 or 9 years, and on the Indiana Coroners Training Board. And on the training board then is responsible for training new coroners and new deputy coroners. So twice a year, there are 40-plus hour classes that are taken, of which I teach medical part. Chris is a teacher in the course as well. The course has lots of different areas for a person to become eligible to take a test and then become certified after a year of internship, externship, to be a medical legal death investigator. So training for me is not as much locally. Others in the office do that, but the training that I do is statewide.
So Chris, for Allen County Sheriff,
Yeah.
Fort Wayne Police, New Haven Police, you've got someone who, it's not just every sworn officer that has the skill set to be a crime scene investigator, death investigator. So for those that have been identified by their command to do that, your office helps provide training, right, for the things to look for, right? You go to a scene and here are the types of things you ought to be looking for to help determine, before you all get there.
Yes, Ron. First of all, Rebecca Mays, she will go to the police academy. So every recruit through the police department, city police department, will see her, and we'll have a couple-hour presentation on when to call the coroner and what we're looking for. So we already get that right away into their brains to understand how the coroner's involved and when they need to be involved. And then, yes, if we have individuals that have a specialty or an expertise that would be a good investigator for our office, we do work with them through the county side as well. But we do educational presentations throughout the community as well. If a high school class wants to learn about the coroner's office, we go into there, we have PowerPoint presentations, and we do presentations throughout the community to groups, organizations, but we do have a seat with the police department and get the police officers trained.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because that's one of the other bullets that you have as far as what your office does, is that you offer training sessions on a large range of death-related issues to any school or organization upon request. Yes. What type of organizations would request that your team come in and do a presentation?
Yeah, and almost any kind of organization does. I mean, it could be the Allen County Bar Association has invited us there to talk about different types of deaths. We've had the Lions Club ask us to come in. There's just different, any organization who wants to get a presentation, and sometimes they ask about specific types of investigations, so we'll lead our presentation to that. Dr. B's been out to do presentations in the community.
Yes, and there are 2 501c3s, one that we started 21 years ago, drivealiveindiana.org.
Which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yes, and then the other one is the One Pill Can Kill campaign. And this is how we're able to get into schools, parents, and talk about the risks of driving, et cetera.
Yeah, so more than just here's what we do, you're also partnering with others about, here's ways to prevent preventable deaths, correct?
Prevention.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll touch on is one office internship per semester. So how does that look and why is that important?
Chris, can you address that? Because it's an exciting program.
Yes. Interns help us out a lot in the office, believe it or not, especially if you get the right intern. But it's an opportunity for those students who are juniors or seniors in college, who some of them have to have an internship to complete their degree, and others don't, but have their whole education has been oriented towards forensic sciences or death investigation or medical. So if we can find that right person, we bring them in for the summer while they're off, not attending classes, and they do everything that we do. We start slow with that student because what we do isn't normal, okay? What we see isn't normal. So we'll go slow, but we'll show them a video of an autopsy, for instance, and then, are you okay with that? And then we go to an autopsy. And so they get a heck of an experience in education. And again, we talked about that we work with so many agencies. So they may not want to be a deputy coroner investigator, but like the one we have right now, our intern, she really has fallen in love with the crime scene side and wants to be a crime scene technician, okay, because she's experienced it and seen it at the homicide scenes and suicide scenes and the fatal traffic scenes. They're attending all those scenes. They are getting out there and doing the work, and they go to all the autopsies. And then in the office, when we're not busy with that stuff, currently, we're going to have to start scanning all of our cases in order before we can destroy by state law now. That's something new that's happened, and that's something I'm adding to the budget as we talk this week to pay the interns. So far, it's been a volunteer, and we felt like we didn't need to pay them because they get such a fantastic experience in the medical investigation death world, as we call it. But something in the future is, in order to get our cases out of the office, we have to scan them all and get them digitally saved, and that's going to have somebody else do them. So we're looking for an intern to start doing that process.
And Chris,
too.
that is prior to what year? Because once we got Spillman in 2000 or so, right, everything is in the digital world.
Correct, and we have 80s on. The prior years, 50s, 60s, 70s, those all were, before the law changed, given to the library to archive.
Right. So with that, we will take our next commercial break. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and my guest today is Allen County Coroner John Brandenberger and Chief Deputy Chris Meals. Guys, before the break, we talked about some of the things that your office does. Now I want to kind of pivot into some other pieces. We have a large county, and so obviously there is a coroner's office in every county in Indiana. It is a constitutional role. However, our office probably looks a little different, doesn't it, just because of size and scale? Mm-hmm. How many are in your department, John?
Chris, we have 4 full-time investigators and 1 part-time administrative person each morning in the office. And then there are 4 other paid part-time deputy coroners. And it's the 4 in the office full-time and the 4 part-time who rotate through call every 8th day and night. I have rotated out of call, being in my late 70s. And so those
You still have a lot of energy, John.
I do. And I'm very blessed to be able to do that. And it's those 8 then that take the call. And then, Chris, do you want to mention about the volunteers that we have?
Yeah, we have about 8 volunteers right now. Some of them are doctors, and some others are nurses. But in the medical legal death investigation world, there's 2 really parts of it. There's the clinical medical side. So a nurse is a great asset to you because they know all of the medical world side of it. A police officer, if he wants to be a volunteer, then he knows all the criminal and crime scene side. Now, each one of those individuals has to learn the other side. So we're always looking for the people that have these experiences, that are more well-rounded in death investigation, and we try to bring them on as volunteers. And some of them do it because they have a real interest. Some want to eventually move up. And so we try to pick our next paid position from our volunteers. It doesn't always work that way, but 90+% of the time we're picking somebody from our volunteers to fill the next open paid position.
Well, I think that's unusual that you normally don't think of people volunteering in the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why volunteers? I mean, that is an unusual piece. I mean, we have some departments that way, the parks and some others, but that is a little bit unusual. So
it is unusual, but I was CSI long before the CSI effect started. Okay, and then once that started, boy, did that bring interest to people. People really, and I do too, have a really fascination with death. Okay, death is very interesting. It's never the same. It's always different, and so that's brought a whole different genre of people into our community, and so they want to volunteer. And sometimes these people want to learn about death. They want to be some kind of civic help to their community they live within, and they get the same training as I do. So they have to go to the same courses and the same training. And then we as an office need these volunteers, because if we have a mass fatality, which I hope we never do, but we have to be prepared, and we have to have a lot of people trained, because then we may have to do autopsies at all the hospitals. And so we have to have the staff there on 24/7 in order to manage this death investigation of a mass fatality, and we have to have those volunteers.
Well, there's also, Allen County's growing rapidly, and when you look at, I know I've talked to the prosecutor before, the number of homicides, in our community has increased dramatically over the last 10 years, let's say. You may have had 10 years ago a year. Now we're probably averaging 50, something like that. Your office obviously has evolved in each of those. So as our population's grown, as violence has grown, as those type of, deaths have happened, what kind of strain does that put on your department?
It does put a strain, but we have staff to cover. The thing that is most impressive to me with regard to the high solving rate of homicides in the 90s, high 90s%, is because of technology. If someone is seen leaving a scene in a certain vehicle, immediately that can be put into the computer, and the flock cameras can find that person and follow them where they're at, even to maybe a parking lot. So we hear a lot of discussion about those cameras. But the thing that we don't hear enough is what they do to help solve crime in our community. So technology is a huge part of it, and we have to be involved in being able to learn technology as it goes along. The other thing about why volunteers is 48 hours, 2020, all of those are very, very popular programs. And everybody's kind of interested in it. But it's not in everybody's blood to get out and do it and be at the scene. But when it's in our blood, that's what we want to do. And the volunteers are some of those people that want to do that.
Okay. You talked earlier, John, about, you are the elected coroner. This is not your first rodeo being elected coroner for a while. It is a constitutional role. What are the qualifications of being coroner? I'm a lawyer and a CPA. Can I run for coroner next time?
Yes, you can. So
that's a dangerous thing.
So the constitutional requirements are, number one, you have to be a resident of that county for 1 year. And you have to be a resident of that county if you're elected for the 4-year term. And the other requirement is that you have to be registered to vote. And that happens at 18. So we had an unexperienced person who turned 18 in a small county in southern Indiana who ran for and became coroner of the county at 18 years old. He went through the classes, but never took the test because he was afraid he couldn't fill it or pass it. And so at a certain point, when he refused to take the test, then he was removed from the office, however that is done. So we had a tugboat operator along the Ohio River be a coroner in a small county. But Fort Wayne, Allen County serves 11 to 13 surrounding counties who are smaller. And if someone is injured seriously or critically in Whitley County, and they're flown to a hospital in Fort Wayne, die in the hospital, they become our case. So we have to work closely with those other counties. So yeah, that's a big strain also on our office.
So it's interesting. I mean, we're fortunate here when I look at a number of the constitutional offices we have to have really well-qualified office holders.
Look at the surveyor.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Mike Frucci's fantastic, right?
Unbelievable.
I mean, engineer, but you as a medical doctor, not every community has that.
Correct.
I would think that for your elected coroner, you would want to have somebody that has medical knowledge or crime scene knowledge. What happens in those communities where someone doesn't have that?
Well, they may have it, but not want to do it because it's a 24/7 job. And those communities, then they seek help for outside communities. A small county in southern Indiana may send their cases to Terre Haute or to Bloomington or Indianapolis. So larger counties help out those smaller counties.
Okay. So we also talked about, you have got to be a registered voter. So this is a political office. It's an RRD. I mean, even though, as you said, you've never considered the role to really be political. Making a decision to run for office is never one that is taken lightly. Having run in several races, I know how much work's involved there. Why did you decide to run for a coroner?
I feel a calling to be able to use the gifts that God has given me in terms of people skills, listening skills, and being able to work with other people because of a passion for it and because I was ready for it, having been in the pipeline for 8 years. And so it wasn't a difficult decision at all because it's something that I really wanted to do to be able to fulfill ambitions that I had.
All right. And with that, we will take our next commercial break. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and my guest today, Allen County Coroner John Brandenberger and Chief Deputy Coroner Chris Meals. John, you talked earlier about, you've taken a very proactive approach with the position, not just the duties that you have constitutionally, but really being engaged and involved throughout the community. And you talked that 21 years ago, starting the drivealiveindiana.org program that really helps parents instruct their new teen drivers on safe driving, correct? And something else that I know as commissioner that you're passionate about right now is the One Pill Can Kill campaign. Mm-hmm. Talk about both of those with us a little bit.
Ron, I was brought up with 3 pillars. Number 1, ethics, knowing the right thing to do. Number 2, integrity, doing the right thing when no one's watching. And the third one, though, speaks to this, and that is stewardship, giving back to the community in this sense. In the summer 21 years ago, we had 5 teenagers die in 3 separate car crashes in Allen County. And we got together media, hospitals, law enforcement, prosecutor, other interested people, surviving parents. What can we do to help the situation? And we did a scientific survey throughout Allen County, and 2 things came out as a result of that. Teens look to their parents to learn how to have good driving habits. And number 2, parents really didn't know what to do other than said, take care. So Allen County drivealive.org was started to help parents be engaged in giving the teen a little rope at a time and a little responsibility at a time, even with a contract. You do this, then this is a consequence. You do this, then this is something you can do. So that is Drive Alive, and it is very active in the schools. We have 2 co-executives that these gals get into the schools, and they do a great job. It's a 501c3, and the other one, though, was at the height of the fentanyl epidemic. In the year when we had 21, we had 173 deaths. And during those peak years in the United States, the number of people, Americans killed in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War, about 55 or 56,000, were dying from fentanyl overdose every 7 months. The equivalent of a jumbo jet with 300 people on crashing every day. How long would we put up with that? And the danger of a kid taking a pill from another kid saying, this helps my headaches, why don't you try it? But it's pretty strong. Maybe you just want to take a half a pill. And that person then is found dead the next morning with a half a pill on the bedstand. So we wanted to get the word out on the dangers of taking a pill from another person. And so we partnered with Remedy Live and Clinton Faupel and his team at Remedy Live. If you're not familiar, go to remedylive.com/onepill to see our campaign and what else Remedy Live is doing. And so that program is not only locally, but we've been invited to the Ohio Coroners Association to do presentation and looking for it to go much broader. One pill can kill, although the numbers are coming down. And Chris, do you have a comment?
Sure. First, also, I want to say we partnered with the commissioners.
Yes.
We were looking for
funds.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, those opioid settlement funds are huge in allowing this to happen, and that's exactly what they were for. But we wanted to get PSAs made, and we teamed with, like you said, Remedy, but then that's not a cheap thing to happen, and so those fundings was great for that. But we really got interested in this because of the child death review. We're seeing 6 students, high school students in 2021, where about a 12-month period had died of fentanyl overdose.
Well, we had a weekend with 5 overdoses from fentanyl.
So we were trying to get to that community right away. We hated seeing our youth die from fentanyl overdoses. Not that it's terrible for an adult, but I guess they play at your heartstrings a little more. So we really needed to find a way to get this message out to stop abusing a pill. They say it's their mom's Vicodin, or they say it's their mom's Xanax, but you don't know what the pill is. So we really wanted to get that out there, and that's what started this campaign, and it's still flourishing to this day. We did presentation at the Indiana Coroners Association to all the counties to try to get them on board to use Remedy. They could use our PSA to get it started in their communities, to get this prevention started. And of course, fentanyl deaths have fallen. Of course, we have Noxolone, which helps bring people back from near death, and that's helped save lives.
Yeah, I know that it's not just the PSAs, but it's also, you're right, I know Remedy does a lot of in-school programming as well, correct?
It's awesome.
To where I think on this One Pill Can Kill campaign, it really is young people don't think. And as far as, well, one pill's not a big deal. However, the potency of some of these drugs, and you don't know where they're manufactured at, and this really comes out of a problem that you all saw, with young people in particular having overdose deaths, accidental, that they just didn't know. So it is that education for young people.
And with regard to potency, Ron, if a person, a kid is taking a pill like that over time, the body develops tolerance to a higher dose. And if they give that pill that they're now taking to a friend who's never had it before, then it often is fatal. Or if someone has been in jail for 6 months and was used to certain doses of a street drug or heroin and comes out and starts that same dose, it's often fatal. So the tolerance that builds up in users cannot be tolerated by novices. Or
something else that I'm excited about is later this month, your department is conducting a final disposition ceremony. So walk us through what that is and what it's going to look like and why.
Yes. So over the years, over the decades, the cremains of individuals who were not retrieved by family members or anyone, and the funeral home has them for a while, doesn't know what to do with them, and so they come to the coroner's office. So over the years, we have accumulated 130 cremains. Since we put out the announcement and the list of all the names, 7 have been claimed by family. And so we have 123 now. And of the 123, 9 are unidentified. We have 3 infants, 2 of whom are identified, 1 is not. And the other group in the unclaimed are veterans. We have 21 veterans, and so there's going to be a ceremony for them at the ceremony we have. And then we've contacted the National Cemetery in Marion to see if they will accept the veterans into their cemetery. And so far, 2 of the veterans have been accepted after vetting, and 7 have been declined, and 12 are pending. So the ceremony is on Wednesday, the 26th of August at 11 a.m. at Divine Mercy. And blessings to Divine Mercy for hosting this.
Yeah, over on Lake Avenue, yeah.
Yes, on Lake Avenue. And for having a space in a mausoleum that we're able to have final resting place for these individuals. And the public is invited to that ceremony. And I get rather emotional thinking about it, right, and the people who will be there. And there will be both Catholic and Protestant involved in the ceremony. And there's an organization created called HeKnowsYourName.org that is involved in helping to prepare this. And Miranda, deputy investigator in our office, has been very involved in helping put this together. So it's something that's quite important for all of us to be able to do for these decedents.
No, I think this is incredibly moving that we're able to do this. Think about that, 130 individuals that have never been claimed, that they're just sitting right now in storage. And this is a way to give dignity and to give a final disposition for those families. So kudos to you and your team for leading that.
Thank you.
I'm pleased I'm going to be there that day. So I was able to move my calendar to make it happen. And
we appreciate that.
No, I'm so pleased with your team on that. And guys, as it always happens, the time goes by way too fast on us. We could have talked about more. I have 6 more questions I never got to. So
and we have 10 more answers.
I know. There you go. So, well, I do want to thank both of you for your time today and the service that you've given to the folks in Allen County and our region. We, as you mentioned, we serve a lot of areas outside of Allen County that need help. For our listeners, I hope that you have learned something new today, and that if you had a question, hopefully we were able to answer that for you and give you some good information. This is Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and you have been listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO.